blood people, blood and flesh people, njengoba Bugama, and these are the people that have inspired us to do this work. My name is Lerato Ngobeni. I serve ActionSA as the national spokesperson, but I also serve in Parliament as the parliamentary chief whip of our caucus. And so I just want to give you a little brief before I go into the technicalities of what we are here to present. As my colleague Babu Mwango has said, we are here to present solutions. We've identified a problem, we've analyzed the problem, we have got depth of conviction around the fact that this is the right problem to resolve, this is the right fight to fight. It's an honorable fight, it's going to be a heavy fight, but it is one that we are prepared to indeed take forward. In April of this year, 2024, we decided as ActionSA to say we cannot keep on lamenting the issue of illegal foreign nationals in our country. I want to underscore illegal because I think we have been ad nauseum trying to justify the fact that here we are speaking about illegality, we are speaking about lawlessness. We are not against anyone, we are for something. We are for South Africa and South Africans. Any government that is responsible, its job it is to put its own citizens first. Those citizens are the ones who vote for it in the first place. So that is your target market. If you are a government that is not looking after your own people, I am not sure why it is that you are in government. And this is why we are applying the kind of pressure that we are applying. We started the campaign in April and we titled it #Spaza for Locals. We came under criticism because people were telling us about grand ideas of, wanting to get mines and wanting us to get, into petroleum and all of these things. We chose Spaza for a particular reason. One, the name Spaza or the word Spaza is indigenously South African. There is no other country or place that uses that word. I looked into where the origins of Spaza comes from, the etymology of this word. Spaza it's derived from actually Zulu or Xhosa, meaning isiphazamisi. During apartheid, as Mr. Mashaba has alluded, it was difficult for black people to own businesses. So they used to do it underground so that they can provide services locally to people. And so Spaza comes from that word. When we talk about Spaza as ActionSA, I want to clarify this before I go into the details. We're not talking about just convenience stores. We are talking about a local economy. If you are a supplier, for example, there are people who are supplying fragrances, who are starting their own fragrances. In fact, I've met a guy who has started, he's a chemist, he has started his own business and he's making perfume. We have got young people all over the country. There is a X page of Kasi Economy on Twitter, or formerly Twitter, but X, on social media. This young person is showcasing many South Africans who are doing great things, great work in their communities, trying to survive, being entrepreneurial, but need support. He is showcasing those people. So when we say Spaza, please don't confine us to a space of just selling local goods of, just sugar or soap or these local things that we're talking about. We're actually talking about entrepreneurship. We're talking about the fact that this country needs, in particular, black industrialists, who Mr. Mashaba always says, at the dawn of democracy, he thought that there would be an outburst of black entrepreneurs and black industrialists in particular who are making stuff and not just consuming stuff. And so that is really the genesis of where we are. And so I think it's very clear. We are saying Spaza for locals, as you can see our t-shirts. It is clear. We want the local economy to be in the hands 100% of South Africans. As Wabukama has said, unless it is something that South Africans themselves do not have the skills to do, make, or manufacture. All of the local entities that operate in our communities must be South African owned, operated, and run. And perhaps maybe let me finish off this particular point by saying this. There is criticism from our opponents who say, well, it's South Africans who are leasing out their properties, so South Africans are also part of the problem. Oh, Mastandi. Well, that issue honestly can be resolved in one sentence that says, unemployment in this country has reached staggering heights, and so people are resorting to all sorts of ways to try to survive. And so if we resolve that issue, we will not have the issue of Mastandi leasing out their properties for a pittance when the actual tenant is making hundreds of thousands of rents. So we are proposing a private member's bill in Parliament. I, as a member of Parliament, I have got the entitlement to do that as pertains or contained in the Constitution. I'm going to be sponsoring that bill. We are going to be calling it #Spaza for Locals bill. But of course, as it goes through the formal processes, it will become something else. What do we mean by Spaza for Locals bill? We mean that we want a reserved sectors bill passed in Parliament. It must be debated in Parliament. The National Assembly must debate it. It must go through the processes. It goes through about 6 processes. Now, we know that the legislative process can take a very long time. We're not interested in that. We're saying this problem has also taken a very long time, but in order to reach success, one must begin or one must start. So we've drafted the bill. It is under draft at the moment. Once it's done in the draft, it will go to the state lawyers and the advisors in the legislature, and they will perfect it or they will give it holes. And when it's done, it will go to our committees, our portfolio committees. My sense it will go to the Small Business Development Committee, and we will debate it there. I also sit on that committee. Perhaps let me allow the truck to pass. Okay, I'm going to proceed. Okay. And then, of course, it will go to the floor in the National Assembly for debate, and then it will also go to the National Council of Provinces for the same process. Another key issue is that it must go for public participation. We need the public to make their comment on this bill, and we will also be spearheading that process as the ActionSA. And then, of course, it goes to the presidency for the president to assent it into law. So let me give you just an overview of what this bill aims to do. There is a lot of literature. We will be releasing a statement with much more detail for members of the media who want to scrutinize the content, to be free to do so. But for here, we're really just giving you appetizers as to what it is we are trying to achieve. So the Spaza for Locals bill of 2024 aims to regulate ownership of all spaza shops in South Africa, mandating that 100% be owned by South African citizens. This measure is designed to bolster local economic empowerment, ensuring that the substantial economic value these shops remain within the country and benefits its citizens. The bill also supports job creation, promotes entrepreneurship, and strengthens township economies through training programs and formal registration that enhance oversight and consumer protection. The bill seeks to address illegal activities by reducing the influence of foreign syndicates and enforcing stricter compliance measures. Relevant authorities, such as local municipalities and various government departments, must collaborate to monitor compliance with harsher penalties for violations. The overarching goal is to cultivate a fair, competitive, and sustainable micro-business sector that prioritizes South African participation and ownership, supports economic growth, and ensures safer operating practices. The bill has the following 5 goals. Number 1, local economic empowerment. The bill wants to ensure that 100% of spaza shops are owned by South African citizens, retaining the over 200 billion economic power within communities for the direct benefit solely of our people. Number 2, job creation. By mandating local ownership, the bill will create more employment opportunities for South Africans, especially the youth, fostering sustainable, community-led job growth. We emphasize youth here because you've got to future-proof our economy going forward. But this does not mean that if you are no longer in the age bracket of youth, life is going to leave you behind. Entrepreneurs can come at any time. There are people who've become entrepreneurs in their late 50s and early 60s. And so we are not excluding those people. Number 3, and very important, is to combat illegal activities. The bill targets the influence of foreign criminal syndicates and illicit trade that kills our children and poisons our communities. By prioritizing local ownership and strengthening enforcement through coordinated efforts between departments like Home Affairs and Labor. It also proposes stricter penalties, including fines, imprisonment, and the closure and forfeiture of all illegal shops and goods. Number 4, safer spaza shops. I think we've all witnessed on social media and also on television some of the raids that have been conducted by MECs of health in Gauteng and other places. The shocking conditions that we have found spaza shops in, which already contravene regulations because people cannot live and sleep and eat and do every other thing on the premises where these spaza shops are operating. The bill encourages the formal registration of spaza shops to improve health standards, protect consumer rights, and enhance oversight. I also want to say the regularization of spaza shops in terms of bylaws is already in place. What is not in place is enforcement, and I wonder what it is that health inspectors seize themselves with on a daily basis, because they are there, the job is supposed to be done, but we are finding, as the South African mantra always says, we've got great laws and shocking implementation. We are saying we want to apply pressure that can definitely change, and change in haste. Number 5, supporting spaza and local owners. Building on the previous point, the bill aims to provide enhanced training and resources to empower local shop owners, enabling them to compete effectively, thrive, and grow their businesses. What do we mean by that? It is not enough to say abahambe, because we also know that there are communities that have said mababuye, because when abahamba, they must be replaced by competent, thriving, empowered, resourced South Africans to take that place. Abababukama, they need that support from the different organs of state and the different agencies that are supposed to support their work. Now, let me share with you key statistics about the township economy, because it's an economy that is so underestimated. I think because people don't have the facts, but also because when we had freedom and BE, people ran to the mines and forgot that there is money that is circulating in our communities in the hundreds of millions and billions of rand. The township forms a substantial part of South Africa's economy, with nearly half of the population residing in these areas. The township economy is estimated to be worth about 900 billion rand, contributing about 6 to 9% of the total gross domestic product. About 75% of township entrepreneurs are aged between 18 and 35 years of age, highlighting a strong entrepreneurial spirit among young people despite limited resources. So it's not all young people who are loitering and lingering in the township. There are actually entrepreneurs that are budding in form of the youth in our communities. Spaza shops are a crucial part of the township economy, providing accessible essential goods for residents. Over half of the township residents visit spaza shops daily, with annual cash spent at these shops reaching about 150 billion rand. Approximately 200,000 spaza shops operate across townships in South Africa, employing over 1 million people and contributing about 5.2% of South Africa's GDP. Now, I'm going to end it there for now, but talk about the regulatory framework because I know people are going to ask this question around the fact that what is so different about this particular bill that is not already in existing legislation. The current regulations of the informal sector in South Africa fall short of effectively empowering local business owners and protecting the interests of South African entrepreneurs. The regulation of sponsorships in South Africa falls under a mix of local and national laws aimed at informal business operations, licensing, and trade. Some of the most relevant laws include the Business Act number 71 of 1991, the Immigration Act number 13 of 2002, the National Small Enterprise Act number 102 of 1996. This act in particular promotes the development or should promote the development and growth of small businesses by establishing support structures and defining categories of enterprises eligible for government aid. It also includes agencies like the Small Enterprise Development Agency, SEDA, or SEFA, which are the two entities, the Small Enterprise Finance Agency, that reside within the Department of Small Businesses. But what I want to ask is if anyone has seen or knows who has been supported in very significant ways by these two entities, which government actually at the moment is intending to collapse into one agency because it creates just a long string of red tape and department after department, and our people aren't able to actually optimize the available resources. The regulatory gaps and risks of abuse. There have been cases where gaps of regulatory enforcement have led to the exploitation of sponsorships by criminal syndicates and illegal immigrants. Inconsistent monitoring by local municipalities has allowed unlicensed and improperly licensed shops to operate, creating a loophole where foreign-owned sponsorships operate without meeting investment or tax obligations. We all know that the law in South Africa says if you are a foreign operator, you should at least be investing 5 million rand into the economy. Who is actually monitoring that? Where is that money going? The Here weet alleenig. And so we are saying in this bill that we are going to be applying pressure. We want this bill to be debated on the National Assembly floor, and we want to make sure that our people can be once and for all prioritized. In conclusion, the Spaza for Locals bill is an essential legislative proposal aiming to promote local economic empowerment, ensure consumer safety, and mitigate the adverse impacts of unregulated foreign-owned sponsorships across South African communities. Current regulations, like the acts that I mentioned earlier, attempt to govern informal trade and business ownership, but regulatory gaps and enforcement challenges have left many township economies vulnerable to exploitation by illicit entities. Local sponsorship owners face unique challenges in accessing the support and resources provided by SEDA and SEFA, as I aforementioned, leaving them under-resourced at a competitive disadvantage. Furthermore, as I've mentioned, the 5 million minimum investment requirement for foreign-owned businesses has been inconsistently enforced, with limited follow-up to ensure ongoing compliance. The Spaza for Locals bill seeks to address these shortcomings by mandating 100% local ownership, implementing stronger compliance and oversight measures, and fostering a safer, more sustainable township economy. Finally, I want to make this remark. There are serious dangers to leaving the status quo as it is. We all know, are aware, that there seems to be a shadow syndicate governments in our country that are running parallel, and we are having illicit goods that nobody knows where they come from. We also want to make an assertion that says, if in fact there are South African companies, providers of goods, who let go of about to expire goods and release them into communities where they are being accessed by those who are running and operating illegal spaza shops, We want an investigation into that, and if there are South African companies that are complicit in this regard, they shall be exposed. Another thing we're going to do as ActionSA over and above this bill, as we have been doing the rounds on the Spaza for Locals tour, we are going to be putting up a Home Affairs desk within ActionSA so that we can have a more coordinated effort in terms of people being able to report to us their experiences on the ground. We're always also going to have a small business desk where Spaza owners like Abu Gama can submit to us so that we are able to reach out to them, so that we are able to facilitate what we are calling an incubation program. The president of ActionSA, who is to my right, Tate Hemen Mashaba, as a business person that he is, I have strong-armed him to say, we've got to go further. We can't wait for legislation. We can't wait for Parliament to get its act together. We are going to also spearhead through his own contacts and mobilize the resources and companies that he has got relationships with to assist us with this incubation process. We will select various business owners where we can, particularly in Gauteng. And I think Babu Ngango on my left will already be fighting for KZN, for incubation to also be here. But that is the work that we want to do. Finally, colleagues, I want to stress this. ActionSA is absolutely unequivocal and unapologetic about the fact that we are here to fight for South Africans. And we urge those who are our neighbors who are here pressurizing the system to consider doing the same in their own countries. We are fighting for our country, and every single citizen of any nation has got the right to fight for their own countries. And so we want this government of ours to up its international relations game and make sure that people can literally be able to also thrive in their own communities. And should South Africans also seek opportunities elsewhere on the African continent and everywhere else, we also should be able to do so, because I don't think we all want to just be stuck in South Africa. If there are opportunities in Pakistan, I'm sure we want to go there. But we cannot have salons and nail bars and businesses of that nature being run by foreign nationals when our own children can learn those skills and they can actually provide those services. With that said, I want to end it there, and I want to thank each and every member of our team who has helped us put this work together. The journey is but started. We are at the elementary stages of this, but we wanted to communicate this statement of intent to say, as a responsible political party, we made a promise to our people when we were starting as a political party, but also through various campaigns that we have started since inception as ActionSA, and we want to demonstrate that we don't just speak, we actually mean business when we say we are ActionSA. And so we made this promise when we promulgated, or when we started, we launched this campaign, and we said we were going to fight for the reserve sectors bill, and this is precisely what we are doing 6 months into being represented in Parliament. Thank you, President Mashaba. Thank you, Babu Mwango, Siyabonga Babgama, very much for your work. Ungapheli moya. We are here fighting for people like yourselves in the background. You may not know it, but we are here doing this work. It's tough work, but we are doing it. Siyabonga kakhulu.
Cool. So now we're going to open to the portion where we have questions and answers. Please let us know if you have any questions you'd like to ask, and let us know what media house you're from and to whom the question is being directed.
I'm a member of ActionSA. Where are they about the insourcing of security in South Africa as well? Because we know it very well, Mr. Mwa is doing it in Natal or in. But what is the take of Mr. Mashaba and the whole ActionSA in South Africa for the insourcing of security and kidnapping? Thank you.
Yes.
I'm from Highway Radio. The question that I have, maybe as ActionSA, are there any other plans in terms of going directly to spaza shops and visit those spaza shops, maybe just to check the conditions and maybe just to check maybe the counterfeit food that they're selling? Are there any plans going directly to those spaza shops? Thank you.
Any other questions?
It's Mfundo Mkiza from Sunday Times. Just wanted to find out how big of a problem is the issue of illegal foreigners in townships. Why was this a particular tuck shop identified? Because we are led to believe that it's a widespread problem across the country.
Cool, thank you. We'll take those questions, and if there are any others, we'll take another round. Lerato, I think there's some questions there for you, as yourself, Mr. Mashaba. And then
I think in sourcing we can start with that and get that out the way.
Well, I think if one is aware of the policy conference that ActionSA had before the elections, we have approved policies, and in-sourcing, it's actually one key component of our policy offering. Obviously, you can only in-source when you're in government. And right now, in municipalities where we are represented, including here in eThekwini, Mr. Mngango and our councillors are fighting hard to ensure that in-sourcing actually happens. Obviously, if you're not in government and you have an arrogant, uncaring government, it becomes obviously very difficult. Fortunate enough, I was the first mayor in this country when I was the mayor of the city of Johannesburg in 2016, when immediately I identified a huge exploitative measure by our own government working with the unions and the private sector to exploit our people. And I fought hard. I'm sure you guys remember that period very well. But I ended up actually in-sourcing over 6,000 people who were working for this tenderpreneurs, security and the cleaners. Right now, as you are aware, we've now taken over the city of Tshwane with the ANC, EFF and other small parties, and in-sourcing is unapologetically one of the projects that government has been given the mandate to ensure that we in-source in Tshwane. So obviously we can only in-source where we're in government, but it's a policy that it's official, approved by over 600 delegates during the 3 days of that policy conference. Regarding
Directly visiting Gaza, I think.
This particular,
I think Zwax can take.
So
Yeah.
just you can take that
just
one.
do we have plans to go to other places, and why this particular store?
I think if the question is if got plans to visit spaza shops, I must say it's not something for now. We've been doing it, and we have been visiting spaza shops. I think not far from here, there's a spaza shop that we're already supporting, President, where myself and the team, we realized that they were having a challenge in terms of the stock. We managed to raise some funds to get some stock for them. So we're now monitoring them, how they can able to grow as a business. So the reason why we even raised the issue in council, it was directly coming from an issue that says we have visited different townships and rural areas as well. And we can see the problem and the impact of illegal foreigners in our townships and in rural communities. Hence, we started this project as well. But in terms of why these spaza shops, I did say earlier, maybe it was before you arrived, we actually went in different spaza shops looking for a better venue. And Babu Kama was one of those who were coming. And I must say, there was no resistance. We just chose Babu Kama, as you said, because of he's been here for many years. I think 1996, he's been operating. So I think his story was very rich to really help us articulate and understanding exactly the challenges faced by local South Africans, especially who are running spaza shops. So there's no other reasons. He's not a member of ActionSA. He's just a business person committed to service this community. And we felt it's important as well to really work with those who are prepared to work with us. But yeah, that's the reason why we are here.
Okay, thank you very much. I think
Can I just, just
Sorry.
checking with Ntate Kama, because I remember when we came in, you raised the issue that for many years I used to employ a minimum of 4 people. But because of the influx of these illegal shops around this area selling these poisonous goods brought into our country illegally, unfortunately right now it's only employing 2 people. And if this trend continues, it might one day be forced to close. And we are saying no. I think we cannot allow this to happen. The reason for him to close is not because the market is dying. He's under attack, surrounded by all these illegal shops selling counterfeit, illicit goods that around him, killing our children and our communities. It is for that reason I think we chose this place.
Thank you, Ndate Mashaba. I just want to emphasize one point. And I'm hoping that reporting can be accurate because we've stated that this project, or this program rather, because it's no longer a project, it's actually a program. We started it, we have been all over the country. We've communicated, we've shared our videos, we've shared our stories. I was actually here, we did here, and we were in Umlazi not so long ago. I was here with the team. We've been to the Eastern Cape. I was in a place, actually Spaza's making me understand my country better because I've traveled to places. I didn't know there was a place called Sterkspruit. That's why I learned of the SASA grants, people coming out of Lesotho and crossing the border, collecting SASA grants and going back home. These are issues, and we were on this Spaza for Locals campaign. The issues are different in some places. In some communities, it's shops like these. In a place like the Eastern Cape, it's big business. It's construction materials that are being run outside of local businesses like Cash Build, where people are able to buy cheaper materials, but they are inferior materials that have not been passed through the South African Bureau of Standards, and people are buying those materials to build houses, and after a few months, those houses are collapsing. So when you ask how big is this issue, it is a massive issue. I think we mentioned that we're talking about 200 billion rand, but the entire township economy is estimated at 900 billion rand. So you must ask yourself a very common sense, logical question. Why is there proliferation of these shops in our communities if there is no market and if there is no business? If there was no market and there was no opportunity, they would not be here. So the problem is massive, it is huge. In Kimberley, I was in the Northern Cape not so long ago. Our children start at these Spaza shops before they can go into school. I can tell you, those kids become so violent that there's a teacher there who I want to commend, who stands outside at that shop directing the kids to not go from the taxi to the shop first. And you ask yourself why. Well, it has been uncovered. In fact, I received a tip-off yesterday in Pretoria, in Tshwane, where there was a raid done by a group called the Progressive Forces of South Africa. They uncovered mandrakes at the back of these stores. So you ask yourself, why would children be so adamant that they want to pass through, rather be late for school, don't care whether the gates are being closed, but they have to pass by this shop? So the problem is massive, it is big, it requires all of us. And the reason why, as ActionSA, we are saying the hashtag Spaza for Locals campaign is actually a movement, because we need all hands on deck. We need each and every South African being alive to this issue and saying, for the first time, you can't wait for government, you can't wait for public reps. Every single South African is touched by this issue, and it is poor people, children who are dying. Just yesterday, a grade 6 pupil in Gauteng once again has died from consuming poisonous foodstuffs bought from these illegal Spaza shops. In Alexandra, you've seen it, the 10-year-old who passed away, the mother, only from smelling what the child has consumed, is still in hospital, and so is the sibling. the child has died. The community of Alexandra is up in arms. We cannot wait for children to die and people to be hospitalized for us to act right. And this is why we are asking and we are really appealing to all South Africans. We are not xenophobic. We love our country and we want it to prosper and we want to do the right thing. I can mention many examples, but we have been as far as possible across the land, across South Africa. And finally, in the Northwest, I literally did an exercise where I counted on one street how many of these shops on one stretch of street, just from that corner to that corner. And I counted no less than 24. So you ask the owners, how did you get here? I came here on a study visa, or I came here as an asylum seeker. How did you get this premises? I've got a contact in the city. I've got access to the premises. The premises is actually owned by the municipality, but somebody in the municipality is collecting rent. And so the issues are huge, the corruption is huge, and we want that to be exposed, uncovered, and it's only going to take whole of society for us to be able to resolve that matter. I think I've tried to sufficiently answer the question.
In fact, can I just really deal with a question that I addressed myself about a few months ago in Amanskral, in a township called Manyeleti, where I grew up, where after visiting, we spent a couple of hours with our activists in that community. Just in 2 blocks, I think we uncovered over 30 shops, illegal shops, where because obviously unemployment, kids from Amanskral, Babelech industrial area closed, people are moving into bigger cities like Tshwane and Johannesburg. They live with their parents alone, older people. They end up actually renting their houses to these illegal foreigners, aliens. And what happens, they rent to one person. In a month's time, already 30 people in the same house. They start to building structures without the permission of the owner, without following the city's bylaws. And this is an issue that we are going to now address, because now we run Tshwane. The previous government wasted 8 years of the city of Tshwane, particularly the townships. And that's an area that we are, as ActionSA, working with the ANC and EFF, we are going to really address this particular matter. Upon actually leaving that area, the following day, I wrote a letter personally to the Minister of Home Affairs to ask for his intervention. I wrote the letter to the Commissioner of Revenue to ensure that these businesses are registered with the South African Revenue Services to pay taxes like all of us South Africans. Wrote a letter to the South African police, because Temba police station is part of the problem. And I can tell you, Amanskral police station is not unique. Our law enforcement agencies have been captured by this criminal syndicate. So the problem is huge, because you can imagine, of all these agencies I've mentioned, not a single one of them has ever even sent an acknowledgement of my letter. In the meantime, look at what's happening. Our children are dying in big numbers. Our children are being affected by drugs at a very early stage of their lives. And if anyone expects us to keep quiet, I can tell you we can only illuminate this. We can only make it bigger. No one is going to silence us from addressing this matter. If ever our systems, our government is captured, I can tell you we are going to make sure that they are uncaptured. And the only way to do that is to ensure that our communities out there to wake up to this reality, because we are going to lose this country one day. One day we are going to really lose this country, and we cannot afford to sit back and allow our country to be taken by aliens, by people who we don't know how they came into our country.
Thank you very much, Sam.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I will now then be conducting one-on-ones outside for those of you who do want one-on-ones. Thank you much.
Thank you all very much.
I
Appreciate
think
it.
Lerato will be there. The 1 minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.